The latest from Michael Moore. Gavin, you sent this to me last night. Dem leaders want us to believe we didn't see what we saw at the debate, but my eyes don't lie. Neither do yours. This isn't about whether Biden's fit to serve 4 more years, but rather, should he serve 4 more days? What happened on that stage was heartbreaking. And I think it's really fair to say Michael Moore, despite being a progressive guy, he's always prepared to put on the blue cap, be like, I hate Donald Trump more than any of you, and I am prepared to give whatever advice I think is going to lead us to, victory. He warned against Donald Trump in 2016. He actually correctly forecast a blue wave in 2022 when a lot of people were expecting Republican backlash off that. So he's not the kind of guy that should be taken lightly. We refer to him as the Oracle because he's often, in the face of adversity, one of the few, correct prognosticasts in the race. And I guess we could take a look a little bit from this Substack article, Gavin, if you're interested.
Yeah, it's a pretty good piece.
Definitely. Let me zoom in a little bit more because I know it's a little bit hard to read for you guys over here. But he says, to paraphrase an old Richard Pryor joke, who are you going to believe, me or your own lying eyes? Since the presidential debate last week, the leaders of the Democratic Party in full 5-alarm fire mode want us to believe we didn't see what we saw. It was just a cold. Everybody has an off night. Okay, so it wasn't his best performance. All presidents have one bad debate. You're not going to judge 52 years of public service by 90 minutes of lousy debate, are you? He's 81. What do you expect? You'll be 81 someday. And this kind of goes on and on and on.
You'll be 81 someday, but not as president.
Yeah, literally. And I don't even know if I'll get to be 81. You guys are kind of setting our planet on fire as we speak. But I thought this was one of the most poignant points that Michael Moore makes. He says, perhaps we should start with a definition of terms. Why do people keep calling it a debate? Isn't that kind of like saying Israel is at war with Hamas? After all, if it's a war, don't there have to be things like armies, tanks, fighter jets, aircraft carriers, and the threat of nuclear annihilation on both sides? If only one side has these things and the other side has none of them, is it really a war? Was it really a debate if one of the debaters is so mentally and physically incapacitated that he cannot complete a sentence, randomly flips between discussing abortion, the 3 trimesters of a pregnancy, and how great his golf game is, then looking around, unable to find one of the 4 cameras pointing at him, he suddenly turns his head all the way to the left as if he were looking for Rhode Island, and then out of nowhere raises his voice and shouts, "We finally beat Medicare!" Not Ohio State, but Medicare. And Gavin, I just wanted to get your response to that because I thought that was an excellent point from Michael Moore.
Yeah, such a great point from Michael Moore, keeping it real as always. And, I'm kind of surprised he hasn't been out here even earlier making the case for Biden to step down because of his age. But I do think that for a lot of people, it was that debate night where it really became clear. You couldn't come out here with any excuses about deep fakes or cheap fakes or, Republican trickery. That had kind of been the attempted line in the weeks leading up to the debate. All these clips of Biden, they're just edited or, the kind of the implication that maybe they're not even real. Maybe they're AI generated. It's getting crazy out there. But then on the debate stage, we all saw with our own eyes as Michael Moore, put it. And the house of cards it all fell apart. There was no propping up this illusion anymore. It was painfully, obvious for all of us to see. And even with the moderators helping Biden by cutting him off every time, it started to get really embarrassing. That's something that I haven't seen a lot of people talking about, but it would have been even more embarrassing for Biden if the moderators had just kind of let him actually hang himself instead of cutting him off every time it started to get really bad. But yeah, I'm really glad that Michael Moore's out here calling on Biden to step aside. And I also love that he was able to insert a little bit of anti-war commentary in there, while he was at it. That was nice too. Kind of elevated it above just a horse race piece.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that despite the fact that we, some on the left will kind of deride Michael Moore as like a vote blue no matter who liberal, he really is a diehard progressive. And I think more than anything, his politics can be described as that of a humanitarian, right? Because he can have such deep disagreements with Joe Biden. He can even find Joe Biden's positions to be abominable, to be borderline evil and atrocious. But then he still also has the human element of like, how could you watch somebody do that and not, feel like you need to intervene and stop them on a human level, right? Just as a person who cares about their own humanity, extending it to everyone. That's what I've always liked about Michael Moore. And somebody with less integrity, less clout, but a lot more dough than Michael Moore also chimed in. And I think this is where it became important. I tweeted this out and I said, all right, guys, fuck everything else I said. He's about to fuck the money up. And that's a problem for the Democratic Party. Okay. You can't mess with the bag. And so this is from a scoop from Brian Schwartz. He says, scoop, Disney family heiress Abigail Disney. And I want everybody to Google how much Abigail Disney is worth, because it's a lot more money than even I realized when I Googled it this morning. I was like, holy shit, the Disneys have so much money. They're like a Walton family kind of wealth. Tells me she is pausing donations to Dems until Joe Biden steps down. She joined some wealthy Democrat donors who say they will stop giving until Biden is off the ticket post-debates. Big move being made. And then I'll also really quickly throw this up. I shouldn't throw our DMs up, but I did that. Whoops. There's a Google Doc making the case for Harris replacing Biden, going around Democratic group leaders and donors that I described in the story this morning. Basically, the heat is on in Democratic circles, even in establishment Washington. In the annals of the swamp, people are saying, hey, we have to do something right now, because they're sitting ducks. They're dead in the water right now. There is absolutely no way for the Democrats to come back unless they swap out Joe Biden. I think that's fair to say. Yeah. I'm skeptical that they'll be able to come back even with Kamala. A swap, because they're going to go with Kamala. And that was the other thing that I wanted to point out here. They called it unburdened by what has been, which lets you know what kind of bad shape we're in, everybody. Like, this is a joke to the rest of the internet, but the people who are desperate to get Joe Biden out, they're trying to use it as like a serious commentary. Like, we tweeted that video maybe a week ago of every single time she said that over and over and over again. I believe Gavin said it put him in a psychic trance. If he ever accidentally commits a mass, hysterical crime, we'll probably blame it on him watching that footage as like a Videodrome type scenario. Anyway, they said, why this memo? We are currently losing. We need to do something different to win. Agree there. The popular discourse is not a realistic reflection of our options, which I think is interesting to say, because I think it's kind of true. There's just no way for the Democratic Party to organize by August an open convention primary that's going to happen and go off without a hitch. It would be massively corrupt. I think it would be a disaster. And I think they're worried that it would impact the Democratic Party's chance at success, not just in 2024, but in 2028. So I don't think they go with that. We need a clear-eyed analysis of what is possible. Like it or not, there's one realistic path out of this mess. Kamala, I would say that she's probably the only realistic person at this point that can replace Joe Biden. I know we've talked about Gretchen Whitmer. I know we've talked about Gavin Newsom. I think that's a little more hopium-fueled, whereas Kamala is a realistic option. It's just a matter of, will that get us out of the mess? Either way, it looks like this is the closest we've come up until this point of getting Joe Biden out of the White House. Yeah, I definitely think it's coming, guys. I think it's coming. Obviously, it wasn't going to happen over 4th of July weekend, but if you guys saw those videos of Joe at the 4th of July event. Ho, ho, ho. Yeah, ho, ho, ho. Happy 4th of July. There's this account called like Biden's Wins or something, which is hilarious because they tweeted out a video that's definitely not a win, not even close to a win for Joe Biden. It's really, really funny. And he says in the video, like, oh yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here. And you can almost get the sense that he doesn't even believe it, right? Let's take a look.
Which I want to do. There's 7,000 people waiting at the gate to get in. So if I don't finish this, they can't come in. So maybe if you're hanging around, I'm going to sneak back out if that's okay, all right? Thank you. Remember that famous expression?
Hold on.
They also serve.
Thank you is a famous expression, Joe.
I remember when our son was deployed, my wife would go to stand in the sink in the morning, drinking her coffee and saying that prayer, worrying, always concerned, all of you. So we owe you.
She stood in the sink when she drank her coffee. Yeah.
Thank you. We love you, and I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. You got me, man. I'm not going anywhere. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'll come back out when they open the gate.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap this up.
Everybody,
let's wrap this up real quick.
Shuffle him off, please. Can we get one of his handlers?
Put this tab back on screen real quick. As you can see here, as I alluded to, this caption says, the media was looking for off-the-cuff, powerful moments, and when President Biden delivers, they ignored it. Retweet so all Americans see this powerful clip and call the media out on their BS. So this is what Biden defenders are working with now to try to make the case for like, oh yeah, trust me, bro, that debate was a total one-off. This is how he normally is. This is how he normally is. So you should stop worrying, right?
Yeah, that 90 minutes of unedited broadcast, that was all. That was a fluke.
Yeah, exactly. But even more important than that, I think, as you alluded to, Zach, what's really going to force Biden out, in my opinion, is this story about the donors basically threatening to pause their donations until Joe Biden drops out, which I think is pretty reasonable. I mean, if you're going to be spending that kind of money, why would you want to spend it on a candidate that's just going to lose? Yeah, like, I mean, they want the people they're spending all this money on to win. It's not like they literally just are throwing it away because they have nothing better to do. Like, they do want to influence the politics that they're, investing in. But yeah, it says Biden is facing an uprising from some of his own party's wealthy donors, including an heiress to the Disney family fortune, who say they will no longer fund the Democratic Party until Biden drops out of the presidential race. It is kind of sickening that billionaires, obviously, as we all know, have this level of control. Even though I happen to agree with him in this instance that Biden needs to go. I mean, yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Oh, what are you talking about? We just celebrated the land of the free and home of the brave yesterday, Gavin. I thought everybody was equal in this country.
Yep. And Disney says, I intend to stop any contributions to this party unless and until they replace Biden at the top of the ticket. This is realism, not disrespect. Biden is a good man and has served his country admirably, but the stakes are far too high, Abigail Disney said in a lengthy statement to CNBC. If Biden does not step down, the Democrats will lose. Of that, I am absolutely certain. The consequences for this loss will be absolutely or genuinely dire, which again, I think reflects a lot of the way the actual Democratic voters feel about this whole situation. Even if they personally like Joe Biden, even if they personally think he would be up for another 4 years, what they're really concerned about is his seeming inability to defeat Trump. Because again, they don't really care who the next Democratic president is. They don't really care if it's Kamala Harris or Pete Buttigieg or Gavin Newsom. They want to go back to brunch. They can't do that if Joe Biden is the nominee, because he's going to lose to Donald Trump. And that means they have to get back out their pussy hats and their fucking cameras so they can go do photo ops and pretend to care again. You know what I'm saying? That's really what this is kind of about. And yeah, they can see in the cards that Biden is headed straight for slaughter. It ain't gonna go well for him.
100%.